Headlines. Charges in the international investigation into the assassination of Rafiq al-Hariri could be revealed soon. The WikiLeaks founder begins his fight against extradition to Sweden to face charges of sexual assault. And panic near the Thai-Cambodia border as more clashes erupt over an ancient temple. The Muslim Brotherhood has told Al Jazeera it's reviewing its decision to take part in talks with the Egyptian government. On Sunday, the group joined other opposition representatives to sit down with the country's vice president for the first time. Well, pro-democracy protesters appear unmoved after those talks between the government and opposition. Alan Fisher has been following developments.
Week 3 starts here. The numbers stay the same. The space they're allowed to occupy is getting smaller. Slowly, the army is squeezing the area around the square, trying to get life around it back to normal. Protesters say they'll block any attempt to kick them out.
They slept underneath the tank to force the soldiers not to move.
US President Barack Obama has told one US TV channel change is coming to Egypt, but how far and how fast is in the hands of the people.
Egypt is not going to go back to what it was. The Egyptian people want freedom. They want free and fair elections. They want a representative government. They want a responsive government. And so what we've said is you have to start a transition now. Mubarak's already decided he's not running for re-election again. His term is up this year. And what we've said is let's make sure that you get all the groups together in Egypt, let the Egyptian people make a determination. What's the process for an orderly transition, but one that is a meaningful transition?
The Muslim Brotherhood, banned for decades but still Egypt's largest opposition group, took its demands to Vice President Omar Suleiman. It says changes have been promised, but not the one it really wants, the immediate removal of President Mubarak.
No positive response was given to most of the demands. Only some cosmetic rather than substantial demands were accepted.
The concern for the anti-government camp is the air is being sucked out of these protests. Momentum is being lost. They say they're staying, but for the moment, so is the man they desperately want out. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera.
We're looking at live pictures now coming in from Tahrir or Liberation Square, where protesters are still gathering. In fact, we can now talk to one of them, Salma Ad-Tarsi, who is there. Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, do you think the political parties did the right thing by talking to the government while Mubarak stays in power?
Well, the political parties can do whatever they please because they do not represent us. So what they do with them, they can talk whatever they want to say. They do not represent us. This is not a revolution made by the parties. The parties have been there for 30 years and they've done nothing. This is the people's revolution, and we have certain demands. They can go and negotiate what they want. They do not represent us.
Who does represent the protesters then at this point?
We have a committee and we have people representing us, and for now it is intentional that we do not negotiate, that we do not have anyone going and talking and negotiating, because what we want is clear. Everyone knows what we want. We do not need someone to represent us because they do know what our demands were clear. They were stated. We said very clearly that it's based on the letter that Dr. Zuhail has the message that Dr. Zuhail has said summed a lot of our demands. We wanted to add on top of it the freeing all the political prisoners, and as a first step, we need them to stop the emergency laws.
State media have been showing pictures of what appears to be protesting youths meeting with government officials. To your knowledge, have any elements of this protest movement, if we can call it that, met with the government?
I know that some of the 6th of April people went and met them, and what they said, and this is, I know it's confirmed because I know the person who went, she said that we will not be negotiating anything before we get our first demand, which is that Mubarak leaves. And this was the message they went to deliver. We are not negotiating. We're just delivering a message from Tahrir Square. And by the way, the revolution is not only in Tahrir Square. Maybe it is symbolized in Tahrir Square, but it's everywhere in Egypt. There are thousands and millions all over the cities of Egypt. And concentrating on the Tahrir Square makes it seem like it's just a bunch of people in Tahrir Square joking around. And this is not the case. It's all over Egypt.
Are you concerned about momentum? How long can people go on protesting when they do have lives to run?
Well, the interesting thing is that, for example, yesterday when they said, okay, people are going to start going to work, we were very worried that the square is going to be empty. However, we had over 2 million people yesterday. And a lot of them are people who came out of curiosity to see if what the Egyptian media is saying is true. And they came here and they were completely impressed. And a lot of them decided to stay or bring other people and come tomorrow.
There were also reports last night of the army firing into the air in what appears to be an attempt to disperse protesters. Are you worried about the army's line perhaps hardening as this drags out?
Sorry?
Are you concerned that perhaps the army may take a harder line if this continues to drag out?
I don't think the army can shoot civilians. We do not believe the army can shoot civilians. And we believe that if the army decides to shoot civilians, that this will be more of a massacre of unarmed civilians. And I think that this will create an international problem. I don't think they can be this would be a very, very stupid move on their side, and most probably, if they do this, it's going to turn the people outside who are against us with us. So we're not worried about this. What we are worried about is that the army decides to desert Tahrir Square and let people in, because at the end of the day, the army is still protecting us, even as a symbol. And what we have now is that we have protesters sleeping around the tanks, under the tanks, to make sure that the tanks do not leave. The only way the tanks can leave is running over people. And there are hundreds of people sleeping, camping underneath the tanks.
Are you concerned now with some elements of the opposition meeting Mubarak, with some US officials hinting that maybe President Mubarak needs to stick around because, well, as Hillary Clinton said, it's going to take time to organize polls? Are you concerned that the pressure may be easing on President Mubarak?
No, we are not, because we are not concerned about this because, again, they do not represent us. They did not start this revolution. They can go and have whatever business they want. They have their own agendas. This has nothing to do with the square. The square, Tahrir Square, the Egyptian revolution is not only in the square, everywhere. We know what we want, and we know they do not represent us.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much, Selma Tarzi, for talking to us. Well, highly sensitive charges to be brought by the prosecutor investigating the killing of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafiq al-Hariri are expected to be revealed on Monday. They're due to be presented at a hearing in the Netherlands and are thought to include terrorism and conspiracy charges. Well, Barnaby Phillips is in Legershundum near The Hague.
It's not an exaggeration to say that what happens in this tribunal, the wording of the charges, who exactly will be indicted, is at the core of current political tensions in Lebanon, and people in Lebanon will be watching events here today and in the weeks and months ahead very, very closely. You have Hezbollah pushing hard for Lebanon to stop cooperating with the tribunal at all. You have Western powers and the United Nations saying that that would be disastrous for Lebanon's credibility. Tensions around the tribunal, of course, already led to the collapse of the government in Lebanon in January, and those tensions continue and explain the current difficulties over the formation of a new government in Lebanon. So yes, people there will be watching this. Very crucial. It really matters a lot for that country's future.
Now let's put this case in its full context, perhaps, and point out, Barnaby, that this could also have consequences for the whole regional and international struggle over Lebanon, couldn't it?
It could, absolutely. I mean, the suspicion is, and this comes from leaks in the court, that members of Hezbollah may be indicted. Well, Who is Hezbollah? Backed by ultimately a Syrian-Iranian axis. The possibility is there that if Hezbollah were to withdraw from a government, a collapse of a government, you have, if you like, the United Nations, the Western powers backing this court very crucially, backing it very, very much. So in a way, it's the same old Lebanese story, isn't it? A small, relatively powerless country with very, very powerful interests across the Middle East and beyond, pushing or pulling, if you